Tonight on A Shock in the Dark, it's the shortest leg on our tour so far, as your letters, your true stories dictate where we visit next. Tonight, we left Las Vegas, and we're in the location of our next story. From Anonymous, the location, Red Rock Canyon. Dear narrator, I just found out that you're going to be touring America, and I wanted to get this to you in hopes you would come by to Summerlin West here in Nevada, about a day's drive from your home in Hollywood. I figure, if you stopped in on your way to Las Vegas or something, we would have the opportunity to shake hands. I'd love to buy you a beer. My unexplained experience started not far from here at a natural tourist attraction next door called Red Rock Canyon. So many people flock over here to Red Rock as part of their visit to Las Vegas. It's this huge area where you get out in nature a little bit and climb around on these giant, beautiful red rock formations. And they do a fairly good job of keeping it from getting overcrowded, too. They limit the amount of people that get to go into the park at one time. So, since it's literally next door to where I live, I take my whole family there. Me, my wife, my 6-year-old kid. We go about 4 or 5 times a year. It's just nice to let the kid run around and let me and my wife enjoy some peace and quiet for a little bit. Well, last year, on a visit out there, somewhere in the last few days of March, my wife and I were shocked to see an enormous bird we had never seen before. It was absolutely huge. Biggest bird either of us had ever seen. And we were surprised by this. We were overwhelmed, and we went to point it out to my kid, but he wasn't there. I panicked for a second, but then I saw him. He had climbed to the top of those really big red rocks just behind us. And just as I laid my eyes on him, he fell. He fell somewhere around 10, 15 feet down to the hard dirt below. Hand to God, I thought he was dead. I still cringe, like as a flashback, when I think about that thud from his tiny body hitting the ground. It really gives me the shivers to even think about. Well, of course we ran over to him, and he just sat up like nothing had happened, like he just woke up from a dream or something. I went to hug him, and then I saw it. The bone from his right arm had punctured through his muscle tissue and his skin, and with that jagged bone protruding from his arm and the pints of blood that were just coursing from him and the twisted, unnatural position of his arm bent in places no arm was ever meant to bend, it shocked me. And I was just frozen there, not knowing even how to begin helping him. That's when he looked down and saw his own arm. He took a deep breath in preparation for a blood-curdling scream and then just passed out. Thank God he passed out. That gave me the opportunity to pick him up and put pressure on the wound and run him to the car. I drove like a crazy person over to Summerlin Medical Center. I was stupid driving, and I could have killed us all and hurt other people. I know that was dumb, but I was in a panic. Luckily, he was admitted almost immediately, but not for his arm. I think it was because they were worried about possible head injury. I have to admit, they did do a great job of keeping him distracted and keeping him pumped full of enough drugs so that he felt as little pain as possible. It looked like he would have to have surgery on it, but at the end of the day, they felt good about how they got it stabilized and said it would take probably about 6 weeks for him to heal. The doctor who took care of my kid was amazing. I'm not going to say his name here for reasons that will become apparent, but this doctor spent loads of time with us, answering any questions, and when it was almost time for my kid to be discharged from the hospital, that's where things got really weird. My kid had been given some super heavy-duty drugs to keep him out of pain, which anybody who's ever seen a YouTube video can tell you. makes people slur or get emotional about weird stuff. It makes people talk about strange things and say things that are completely meaningless. You've seen the videos of people that have just come from the dentist office? Yeah. So he was talking all crazy about, angels, and sometimes he would get a grumpy look on his face and say, "Leave me alone! I'm busy!" Even though nobody was there, nobody was bothering him. Well, we were putting my kid's shoes on him, and we were wrapping up things with the super cool doctor when my kid just started staring at the doctor intensely. Such a hard, serious stare. It would be hard not to notice. So the doctor is talking and notices my kid staring at him and then turns to him and says,
"Hey, son, you feeling okay?"
My kid just nodded his head yes, but then gets this sympathetic look on his face and tilts his head to the side and says, "He'll be okay." I'm just thinking my kid is talking in third person about himself, but then he says, "Not me, Tom." All of us looked at my kid, just completely puzzled as to what he's talking about. The doctor says,
"Oh, is Tom your friend?"
My kid says, "I have a friend at school named Tom. Not him. You're Tom. He'll be okay." The doctor is clearly humoring my son.
"Why? What's wrong with Tom?"
"He got hurt and he lost his shoes." Our doctor looked at my kid kind of sideways. His eyes were squinted, one eyebrow up, one eyebrow down. Doc took a hard swallow. He got real serious and looked at my kid as he was about to say something, but then he just walked out the door. My wife and I were just standing there for a second, not sure what was happening, but, what else could we do? We got my kids' things together. We got them all packed into this clear hospital bag they gave us and picked him up to leave when the doctor came back, and he shut the door behind him.
"Son, you said Tom lost his shoes?"
"They got hit off his feet from the red truck." My wife and I turned simultaneously from our son to the doctor to see what he would say next. The doctor just stood there. Right when I was about to ask what was going on, the doctor started to say something to my son, but my son interrupted him.
"Was there something special?"
"It was a fire truck."
It was. It was a paramedic truck. Do you know that?
"No, it was a fire truck. It had lights on top."
Okay, fair enough. It's amazing you know that, though. But are you sure Tom is going to be okay?
"Yeah."
And how would you know? Did you see the red truck? Did you?
No, it's 'cause the angel told me.
Well, thank you for telling me that. And could you please tell the angels that
They know already. The doctor asked to speak to us for a moment outside the room, so we followed him into the hallway.
"You've got a very special kid there."
I answered back, "Well, I'd like to think so."
"No, I mean my son. His name is Tom. He lives in New York. He was crossing the street and got hit by a paramedic ambulance Tuesday night. I think he's going to be okay. There's some cerebral edema. The brain is slightly swollen and he's had some memory issues, but we do think he's going to be okay. But my wife and I are flying to New York tomorrow to see him. There's just no way that... nobody here at work even knows about this. Does your son tell you things like this often?"
No, he's never said anything like this.
Because, I don't have all the details of my son's accident. I can tell you from working in emergency care for 30 years that when people get hit by cars, more often than you would think, it literally knocks them out of their shoes. And there's just no way a kid would know that. Well, a kid would not know any of that. Like I said, you got a special kid there. I would listen to what he says if I were you. I don't have any idea what's going on with him, but it's I've just never seen anything like it in all my life.
The doctor popped his head into the room one last time and spoke to our kid.
Hey, feel better, son. And please,
I won't
don't
forget. And I already told you. They know already. And they said you're welcome. In the car on the way home, my wife and I whispered and kind of in code agreed not to ask him anything else about what he saw and who said these things to him, but the next day we couldn't help it. We sat our son down in the living room and I started the conversation. Hey, your mom and I were curious about these angels. What angels? That's right. He's got absolutely no recollection of the angels or anybody named Tom, except for his friend at school named Tom. So for now, I guess this will just remain one of those weird stories that we'll tell when he brings a date home to meet his parents. I'm curious if he has any kind of special ability that's brought about by a cocktail of various pain medications or something, but we hope he never has to go through anything like that again. Sincerely, Anonymous, near Red Rock Canyon, Nevada. Wow. Well, with that, the Shock of the Dark tour of the United States continues. And as your letters dictate our journey, I'll be staying here tonight and visiting Red Rock Canyon myself tomorrow. Then next week, A Shock of the Dark, the road trip of the U.S. continues. And maybe I'll be where you live. To support this channel and keep it running, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, make a comment, share it with a friend. In the meantime, I'm the narrator. Good night, whoever you are.